Here we are, guys, day 10. We finally hit that double-digit marker, which is a proud moment for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna provide you with an additional question that I thought was kind of funny. So stay tuned to the end. So let's get to today's question. Question is, what should I expect during an escrow? So what I'm going to say is basically you've got your offer accepted, or you've accepted an offer if you're the seller, and now you're ready to open escrow. What happens next? So great question. There's several steps that happen. So I'm gonna try my best to keep it short for social media. But as always, I'll clean up the video and I'll add something to our YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and search all SoCal Homes. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification, so then that way when I do drop the video, you'll get the alert and you'll be able to take a look at it. Maybe it'll help you out. With that being said, what I'm about to tell you is generally what happens during the course of an escrow. That's not to say that things can be different. It all depends on what you negotiated in your contract. So I'm gonna speak to you as if you were the seller, but you could take this information as a buyer as well. It'll be helpful. So before we get started, as far as the process and steps, what's transpiring during this escrow period, let's talk a little bit about escrow. What is escrow? So escrow, the easiest way for me to explain what escrow is, they're a neutral third party, and their responsibility is to ensure that everyone is doing their job based on what was negotiated in the contract. The other company that's going to be involved in the transaction is going to be the title insurance company. What they do is they ensure to the buyer that the buyer, when they go to purchase the property, they're not coming in with any liens against the property. Whatever is due and attached to the title is going to be paid off by the time the new buyer takes ownership of the house. In addition to that title insurance, they're also going to provide a title insurance to the lender to ensure that the buyer is not coming in with any liens against them that could affect the title. The title insurance is taking care of both sides. Let's go ahead and move into what happens next. So within those first 3 days of opening escrow, the buyer will need to submit their deposit, their earnest money deposit. So this is funds that they put into escrow, and what that does, it just gives some assurance to the seller that the buyer is serious about purchasing the property. That money does not belong to the seller. It belongs to the buyer, and as long as everything goes well with the transaction, at the end, whatever funds are in there, they'll get credited to the buyer, whether it's towards their closing costs or whatever the case may be, or they'll get a refund at the end if it's too much funds that they've collected. And also within those first 2 weeks, there's going to be some inspections that are going to be ordered from escrow. Escrow is going to order the preliminary title report. Normally, they'll also order the natural hazard disclosure report. Natural hazard disclosure report will basically disclose what's going on in the area. Are you near an airport? Are you near a military base? Are you near manufacturing or industrial high wildfire area? So they'll go through and order that report for you. And they're also going to order the preliminary title report. Preliminary title report comes from title insurance, and what that'll do is it'll give us a real basic snapshot of what's going on with the title at this time, who has any liens against the property, what the taxes are, and some additional information that's helpful. In addition, the lender for the buyer will also order the appraisal, and that will involve someone going to the house and taking pictures and measurements in order to give an accurate report. And if that buyer does have a good agent, then that agent is going to highly recommend that the buyer does a home inspection of the property. Now, when you purchase a property, in the contract, it does say that the house is being purchased as is, but that doesn't mean that the buyer doesn't have the right to do a home inspection of the property. They even have the right to ask the seller for repairs, but the seller has the right to say no based on the contract that says it's being purchased as is. If there's an agreement, then things get worked out either with the credit or the seller does the repairs. If there's not an agreement, then that gives the buyer a way out and that gives the seller a way out. No harm, no foul. Each party goes their own separate ways. Now, as a seller, you're going to be scheduling an inspection as well. Normally, a termite inspection is going to be required. Then depending on where your home is located, if, for example, if you're in an area that has a septic tank, then you're going to have to do a septic certification. So that'll be ordered as well. Again, all this is happening generally within the first couple weeks of opening escrow. In addition, the listing agent will go over disclosures with the seller, a variety of paperwork that the seller needs to review, answer a bunch of questions, and then that will be provided to the buyer. And then the buyer will have an opportunity to hear from the seller regarding the property. There's a few disclosures that are more important. Well, they're all important, but a few of the disclosures ask specific questions to the seller. Others are just kind of a general boilerplate disclosure. I mean, we do live in California, so there is, it is a litigious society, so they got to cover their bases. So again, this is all happening within about the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of opening escrow. Then at that point, once all of that is taken care of, assuming that everything is okay, if there's things that had to be negotiated, they were negotiated. At that point, the ball is in the court of the lender. And then the lender at that point is going to take over with the bank, and they're going to be providing the bank with any additional documentation that may be required either of escrow, of title, of the buyer themselves. And once all that paperwork is all done and approved by the bank that's actually lending the money, then at that point, we're going to get towards the end. They're going to draw up loan documents. Those loan documents are for the buyer to sign. Usually around that same time, the buyer is going to be aware of how much money they need to bring to the table in order to get the deal closed. So once those funds are provided to escrow, they sign all the loan documents. Those loan documents are going to be sent back to the bank for approval. The bank will review them. If there's anything missing, they'll go ahead and get that worked out. If not, then they'll give us the clear to close. And then at that point, what's going to happen is there are two statements that we're waiting from escrow at this point. First one is, hey, we funded. And basically what that means is the funds were moved over from the bank to escrow, and we're ready to disperse those funds. The second thing is we've recorded. So basically when it's recorded, what that means is the document has been submitted to the county, and it's been changed over to the new buyer's name. So now you're officially the homeowner. As a seller, you've officially sold your home. So depending on what was negotiated, usually the seller will have 3 days after they close escrow to move out. That's customary. Once we hear, hey, we've recorded, that means it's a done deal. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you are now the official new owner of the property. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This means that you have officially sold your home and you're ready to take that next step in your journey. So that is, in a nutshell, basically the steps that are taken during the escrow period. So I hope you found this helpful. Let's move on to the bonus question. So now the bonus question that I have is from Adam on TikTok. So Adam asked me, are you drinking? I wasn't quite sure what he meant by that, so I had to answer him directly. And I basically said, hey, are you drinking? Do you mean, am I staying hydrated? Because I'm going out on these walks in the middle of the heat here in the high desert. It's super hot. So the answer to that is yes, I'm staying hydrated. I always take a bottle of water with me, and I try to drink water throughout the day, although my guilty pleasure is unsweetened iced tea of all things. So I generally drink a lot of that, but I will continue to try to drink more water as we go along in order to be able to make a better choice, right? And the other part was, okay, well, maybe he meant, are you drinking? Like, you must be getting drunk if you're doing that, going out on those long walks in the middle of the heat. But to answer that question, no, I am not getting drunk. I actually rarely drink. Occasionally I will. I have some bad influences in my life, guys. You know who I'm talking about. But they will get me to drink every once in a while, but very limited. So it's pretty rare. Oh, that was the bonus question. I thought it was funny because of the way he put it. Adam had an opportunity to answer it here as well. So thank you very much for your question, and look forward to the next day, guys. We hit the double digits, day 10. So I'm gonna keep it going, and I appreciate you joining me on the journey as always. Have a good one.